Oh, I was wrong. I was so wrong about the last episode being the worst one for me thus far. Oh, I was so wrong. Foreshadowing. Hello, all my Kinvians, and welcome to a new episode of Discovering Torchwood. Random shoes. Now you see, the funny thing is, I actually considered doing a reaction video for this originally, but time just didn't work out to where I was going to be able to do that. And I'm so glad that I did. It would have been either the most boring or possibly the most cringeworthy reaction video that I have ever done. Because I'm not, no two ways about it, I didn't care for this episode. And let's get into why, but I did admittedly have some favorites. I did, even though one of those favorites was technically a repeat of the previous episode. But anyway, let's start with my first favorite of this episode, which is the fact that we basically get not the narrative exactly, but a lot of perspective from an outside party. Someone outside of Torchwood. I mean, other than Gwen, who was in the first episode, I don't really count that, but someone outside of Torchwood being essentially the main character of the episode. And I've seen like a lot of different shows have done episodes like that. I mean, definitely Doctor Who has done its fair share of episodes like that, to varying degrees of success, but anyway, but yeah, the outside party, as I refer to him, but Eugene, I found the way that the direction they were attempting to go, or what they tried to do with this episode, with the outside party, it worked well for me. That aspect of it. My second favorite part of this episode, this is the repeat part, but it's Gwen being Gwen. It's even more, like, in the previous episode, they keep killing Susie. I mean, we definitely got a lot more of the old Gwen back, and in this episode, I mean, we spend so much time with her that, I mean, just, the character is completely back to me. It's like, I once again enjoy her as a character, through and through. So yeah, that's definitely my second favorite part of this episode. My third and final favorite part of this episode was admittedly the end. The way that basically, even though it does throw away most of the possible logic with the show and most things in general, the fact that Eugene did regain a physical form to save Gwen, his father got to see him again, his whole family got to see him one last time, of him being a hero, of saving Gwen before he drifted off to heaven, I guess? I'm not entirely sure, which, again, that kind of negates what Susie had said before in the previous episode about there just being nothing, there's just darkness. Although that could kind of lend an idea that maybe in the Doctor Who / Torchwood, well, more so the Torchwood universe, not necessarily Doctor Who, but that there is a heaven and a hell, because, Susie went out, not a very good person, but seemingly Eugene, he went out a good person. He went out a hero. He tried to do the right thing. So, I don't know, that kind of lends some credence to it. But overall, just the end of the episode, I did admittedly like that. And now, let's get into my annoyances with the episode, which admittedly, they aren't as severe as the annoyances I had with They Keep Killing Susie. I will say that. But My first annoyance with this episode is just, from beginning to end, the sheer silliness of it all. And I enjoy it when shows are silly. I enjoy it when characters, either in character or out of character, act a little bit goofy. But the direction they went with this one was just completely off the wall. And a lot of that silliness that I couldn't stand had to do with Eugene, the person who the episode focused around almost entirely, if not entirely. But moving on from there, my next annoyance with this episode is honestly the music. I can't remember any specific tracks. I don't have a track of the episode unless you want to include the title sequence. But yeah, just the music choices for this episode, I didn't care for them at all. And I don't know if maybe part of that had to do with just where I was already kind of annoyed with the episode or what, but like none of the tracks come to mind for me even afterward. I just remember just not caring for them at all and just kind of blocking them out of my memory seemingly. So yeah, that's my second annoyance with this episode. My third annoyance with this episode, and it's probably the strongest out of all of them, and it's that Eugene won't shut up. Dear God, again, in episodes like this where a person, like, the story revolves around a person outside of the main group, people can make it work. Even if the character is a talkative character, it can work. But with the combination of Eugene being an annoying character, among many annoying characters in this episode, and he just won't shut up. Will not shut up. That just drove me absolutely nuts throughout this episode. But moving on to my fourth and final annoyance with this episode, and this kind of ties in with how Eugene just won't shut up, but the heavily forced live life to the fullest moral that has been regurgitated in shows over and over and over again, especially when it has to do with a character that dies, but they aren't entirely dead yet, and then they pass on. And like those morals, just like in other episodes where something like this theme has been done before, it can work if the story's good. It can work if it doesn't seem as intensely heavy-handed. It's kind of hard to not make it seem, it's kind of hard to make it not seem heavy-handed, but it is possible. But in this episode, it was just the crap cherry on top of a crap ice cream sundae with crap sprinkles. And yeah, I know I'm censoring myself, shut up. But and I guess you could throw in another annoyance being just most of the other characters in this episode, honestly. I couldn't take most of them. They were just either poorly acted or just not well done. I don't know. Just written badly. I don't know. But it was not good. It was not good. So, as I said before, there's no track of the episode this time because I couldn't stand any of the tracks that actually did stand out, and I can't remember any of those tracks, thank God. Now, besides the fact that one of my annoyances was the fact that Eugene would not shut up, my quote, or quotes of the episode, is actually Eugene's random statistics throughout. I did find them kind of interesting. It seemed like a fun little character quirk for this episode. So it was one of the aspects of the character I did kind of like. It's not the most original thing, because there have been a lot more enjoyable characters made in TV and other works of fiction past that, you know, aren't as annoying. But yeah, just for me, the quote of this episode definitely has to be just his random statistics, because they added a bit of levity when I was being annoyed, if that makes sense at all. No theories for this episode, because I honestly don't see how it ties into, or how it could possibly tie into any other episodes, unless, I don't know, that eyeball thing comes into play at some point. But I do have a question, and this is actually, I didn't actually have this as a question, but I mentioned it in the previous review. But where is Reese? Like, I know that, I understand that they can't always fit in, like, you know, the side characters, the love interests, or whatever. But for the first several episodes of this show, you know, Reese was at least a somewhat prominent figure, at least somewhat prominent figure in Gwen's life. But at this point, even though, again, thankfully they've pushed the affair way to the background, it's just, you know, Reese isn't even there. I don't know, I find that kind of annoying, to be completely honest, that they would just completely brush that character aside, who, on an emotional level, you know, is one of Gwen's strongest relationships, if not the strongest relationship in the show. I don't know, they'll probably bring him back eventually, I just, you know, being impatient. But yeah, that's my question, is where is Reese? I've got nothing else, so just overall thoughts on this episode. Pure filter. Or filler. That's what I meant. Pure filler. This is an episode that if someone is watching Torchwood for the first time, they could skip entirely. And again, unless there is something about this episode, like the eye thing, that ties into a later episode. Unless that's the case, this episode is worthless. This is, hands down, the most unenjoyable episode I have experienced with Torchwood so far. I even considered going back through it a second time just to see if maybe I was being too harsh on it, but I couldn't bring myself to do that. It's just the most unenjoyable episode. And for anyone that does enjoy this episode, I do apologize if what I'm saying, you know, upsets you. I really do apologize, but for me, watching the episode was a labor that, and it felt like it would never end. Even though it was no longer than other episodes, it felt like it was going on forever for me. So yeah, unfortunately, just not my cup of tea. It did have a few positive elements to it, very small, but even those positive elements, except for Gwen, weren't executed well, weren't written well, seemingly weren't acted well. So yeah, my apologies for stomping on anyone's dreams. If this is a favorite episode of yours, I kind of hope not. But if you do like this episode, let me know why. Please do explain it in the comments down below. And actually, I forgot to mention that earlier. Any of your own favorites and annoyances about this episode, please do let me know what they are in the comments down below. And to repeat myself yet again, if you did like this episode, let me know why, because maybe you can help me see why this episode would be more enjoyable. Or maybe from a certain perspective it's more enjoyable, because for me, you know, I try to keep an open mind with all the shows that I watch for this Discovering series, and this episode is just... it's one of the worst episodes of anything I've watched in a while, and that's saying something. Considering I went through the entire modern section, you know, post-2005 of Doctor Who, and they had some stinkers in there from time to time. But yeah, Random Shoes is just way down there. So yeah, those are all my thoughts on Random Shoes. Looking forward to hearing what you all have to say about that one. And next time, it looks like we're going to be having another reaction video based on popular request, and that is going to be on Out of Time, which I did catch just the slightest glimpse of the beginning of the previews when I watched this one, and I saw some people in sort of a old-timey dress, or maybe it was more 50s dress, somewhere along those lines. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what that is, because it seems like it's going to be a legitimate time travel story again, which honestly I'm kind of missing. That's one of the things I miss about you know, Doctor Who, is just like, you know, they had a lot of time travel elements in addition to the sci-fi, and there's not really any time travel in Torchwood. So if that's the case here, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what Out of Time has to offer. So until next time, everyone, I am Papa Ken, and I will see you on the next video. Annoyances!